You're watching the Clean Commercial Transportation Update, and I'm Alicia Gildy.
And I'm Bill Van Amberg, and we are staying COVID safe so that we can bring these reports to you.
CCTU provides the latest information on technology trends, industry updates, and emerging developments in the clean transportation industry.
And the heart of CCTU is really about connecting people and partners by highlighting real progress and groundbreaking collaborations that are driving communities, fleets, and industry faster to a clean air future.
Join us for our next broadcast on May 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Please register for CCTU. It's really easy to do. Visit our website at calstart.org/CCT update.
And we'll CCTU soon.
Well, we'll CCTU very soon because here we are. Hello, everyone. Great to see you. And it's so good to be back for our May edition of the Clean Commercial Transportation Update. Thank you for making Friday your CCTU day. I'm Bill Van Amberg, and I am joined this week and this month by Alicia Gildy, my great colleague and partner. And Alicia, it is so good to finally be back together doing this broadcast.
Well, Bill, it has been a while, hasn't it?
Yes.
Well, it's great to be back here with you and all of our friends at CCTU. And thank you everyone for joining us today. For the next 30 minutes, Bill and I will bring you the latest on trends, tools, and updates for the clean commercial transportation industry. We see CCTU as a great way to connect on a Friday after a long week, to pause and reflect on all of the progress in the industry. Thanks for being a part of that progress and all the great work that you do to advance clean commercial transportation.
Well, there's been a lot of progress this past month and week, but before we get there, let's just talk about what it takes to put this program on. CCTU would not be possible without our great team, our producer, Casey Okazaki, Alex Gaddis, who's running the controls for us, Whitley Porter, who's making sure we look sharp, and Megan Fine, who handles our industry engagement so that we are reaching out to all of you. But let's touch right away on that industry progress. Exciting week, and there's two big topics. One of them is the aggressive way that Ford leaned into and launched its electric technology this week. They even got President Biden involved. And Alex, if we could run that video. Alicia and I were enjoying this during the week in the lead up to Ford's announcement, and getting our commander-in-chief behind the wheel was part of what they did. Not so hidden vehicle. They put the decals on it so you can't quite see the shape. This was just before they unveiled it, and it was cool to see him in his aviators, wasn't it, Alicia?
Oh, it was so cool. He is so cool, and how fast he went. He definitely took a good test drive.
he really spun it around the track, and then his comment here at the end. Let's see if we can hear it.
Mr. President,
this sucker's quick.
How's it drive? How does it feel? Would you buy one of these?
This sucker's quick. So that was the summation of it, but that was a heck of a launch for Ford and really exciting. We'll get into more details in the news segment, Alicia, but that's a powerful vehicle in so many ways. Price, capability, and then even the range it's got.
Yeah, Bill, it was really great. And I don't know if you all may have seen the great YouTube video that featured the Lightning 150 pulling a trailer of 40 Lightning 150s on board. I mean, just to show the strength of the vehicle and how so many were impressed by the strength of that vehicle. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it really was. And then, of course, the other big story of the week, we'll get to it in just a second, but huge budget commitments to zero emission transportation, medium and heavy duty in particular, in California. So we'll touch on that in a moment. But I guess, Alicia, let's get into our rundown for this week's broadcast. And it's going to be centered around alternative fuel corridor campaigns. There's a lot of movement right now, and we want to share the momentum and the real movement there. We'll be joined by CalStart's Federal Policy Director, Kyle Winslow, to talk with us about what's going on at the federal level and some of the markups and actions we're seeing right now in real time, as well as Natasha Contreras of SDG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric. They're building out a regional infrastructure program, and she has some insights for us on connecting to a corridor system.
That's right. And Bill, we highlighted this next topic on a recent Take 5, and I'm thrilled that we can bring this great partnership on today's CCTU program. We're going to be featuring Nikola's Senior Manager, Philippe Gerston, and Travel Centers of America Senior VP on Sustainability and Alternative Energy, John Thomas, on their recent partnership to deploy hydrogen refueling at TA's truck stops. So this is really exciting and can't wait to talk to them about it.
Well, great lineup we have today, but let's kick it off as we usually do, and let's get the attendees' opinions with our poll.
That's right. Well, hey, we're talking about alternative fuel corridors and setting up infrastructure to enable zero emission transportation. We want to hear from you. How long before we're going to see zero emission trucking along our transportation corridors? So our options here for you to select: 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years. How about 3 to 4 years? Okay, maybe 5 and beyond. I don't know about that. I think we're going to see it much sooner, but let's hear from you. How long is it going to take before we see it?
Totally agree with you. I think people are going to be surprised by this, but this is coming a lot faster than people expect. I think it's coming in the next 1 to 2 years, not at scale, but the first versions we're going to be seeing long distance.
All right, well, Alex, let's see the results. Okay, look, we have some optimistic folks and I'm loving it. All right, first slot here, we're looking at 1 to 2 years. I think it's tied with 2 to 3 years. All right, and then after that, 3 to 4 years and then 5 years. So let's hope that we'll see it, and maybe even with our partnership that we're going to be featuring today with TA Centers of America, we're going to see that happen sooner than later.
Well, and we're putting in this infrastructure none too soon. But so let's launch into talking about what's going on this week in news, and then we'll get into that deeper topic of corridors. Really exciting news out of California this past week, where Governor Newsom has unveiled an really unprecedented budget for the state of California, the largest ever, but really is going big on tapping a budget surplus to invest in the future. And zero emission technologies are writ large in that budget. In fact, zero emission for medium and heavy duty got a significant amount of additional funding, $400 million for zero emission trucks, buses, and equipment. That's mainly the HVIP and CORE programs. In addition to that, 1.4 billion over 3 years, targeting 1,000 zero emission drayage trucks, 1,000 transit buses, and 1,000 electric school buses in that time frame, plus an additional $500 million in zero emission infrastructure, plus funds for expanding state manufacturing and job training. Now, it depends on the legislature's vote, but that is an aggressive budget. The other leaning big on a topic is what Ford did this week. I think we were all excited to see the F-150 Lightning come out. And I think the biggest surprise for a lot of people was the price point. Under $40,000, for about the price of a Tesla, you can get this crew cab full pickup truck, a base range of 230 miles. It could be up to 300 miles with a bigger battery. And it's pretty exciting in terms of the fact that this truck also has export power capability. You could power your house for 3 days on the battery pack of this truck. Huge selling points and a big launch for Ford. Hats off to them. Another big announcement that happened this past month, very exciting. You're looking at Joliet, Illinois. Why are we looking at it? Well, that's where Lion plans to build the biggest U.S. e-bus and truck assembly plant in the United States. They're going to be building that facility. They hope to have it online in late 2022, and it'll have the capacity for 20,000 electric trucks and buses per year when it's finally installed, employing 700 people. Lion also had other big news we're excited about for them. They got their biggest single customer deal, 260 electric Lion C school buses being sold to First Student, which happens to be the biggest provider of student transport, but it's now the largest single operator of zero emission school buses. Very exciting. Those are headed to Quebec. Arrival has some new news and partnerships this week, teaming up with Uber to create what they call the Arrival Car, which is kind of a clever name because this is an electric ride-hailing or car-sharing vehicle. It will be purpose-built for that function. They're designing it actually in partnership with Uber drivers. And it's going to add to the suite of vehicles that Arrival is building for buses, vans, and cars, multimodal zero emission, they call it. This is interesting because it also supports Uber's goals of being 100% zero emissions by 2025 in London and 100% across the Europe and the United States by 2030. We're seeing VW moving down the same path. So they're going to take this vehicle, which I think is still very cool. I always wanted my VW bus to be electric. They do have their minibus coming out as electric in 2022, but they're working with Argo AI and a German mobility firm to turn them into autonomous car sharing, or if you will, carpooling vehicles. It's all part of taking this vehicle up to the next level and carrying multiple passengers in electricity. In this case, also, they hope to start testing it later this year as an autonomous people mover. Finally, just kind of stressing the urgency of why this technology is so important is EPA finally released a report that had been blocked for 3 years by the Trump administration on the impacts of climate change on the United States. It says that we have entered unprecedented climate territory, and it's actually quite a sobering report showing that climate impacts are accelerating, becoming more extreme. It outlines a lot of these changes, from the loss of permanent permafrost in Alaska, extreme summer heat waves in US cities, 3 times more than in the 60s, loss of winter ice, wildfire seasons expanding. And for the first time, EPA says in this report, it is caused by human-caused climate change. So troubling trends, but coupled with some really exciting momentum for change over this past month. That's it for the news, Alicia. Why don't we launch into talking about those corridors that are going to help us out of these problems?
Well, great. Thank you so much, Bill. Well, we're going to start off today's interview with CalStart's Policy Director, Kyle Winslow. Kyle's been leading CalStart's policy action groups to lock in critical legislation to advance incentives for zero-emission commercial vehicles and infrastructure along our alternative fuel corridors. Kyle, it's always great to have you. Thank you for joining us. There's a lot of excitement and discussion on the infrastructure investments as a part of President Biden's Build Back Better, and a big focus on zero-emission infrastructure and clean fuel corridors. Help us understand what's really moving in Congress and what mechanism might we see in terms of a bill package? Are we looking at it coming through an infrastructure bill or surface transportation or something else? And then lastly, are we expecting to see any funding come out this year?
Yeah, thanks, Alicia, and a lot of exciting movement as you're mentioning. There's been a lot of great momentum from the Biden-Harris administration in this space on American Jobs Plan, specifically calling for a generational investment in building out a national network of 500,000 EV chargers by the end of the decade. So big goal, and some ideas on how to get there. Obviously, that's going to include the corridor charging and refueling that we're talking about here today, but also other pieces like the EVSE rebates for public locations or for multi-unit dwellings. And so these ideas aren't new to Congress. The administration is kind of taking some ideas that have been out there and proposing them and adopting them and pushing them forward. Now Congress has to take some pieces of these legislation that's been introduced in previous Congresses last year, for example, on corridors or on that rebate that I mentioned, for example, and dusting them off, updating them, and seeing which avenue is the best to move it forward. But all indications are we'll see corridors move. And then on the kind of the vehicle, honestly, the outlook is a little bit murky on, is it going to be surface transportation reauthorization, or is it going to be an infrastructure package that's like the Build Back Better package? Still murky. I think the surface transportation process is moving forward. And for now, it looks like there's real effort to make it bipartisan and to operate through regular order. I think paying for the bill and what is infrastructure, quote unquote, those are big, roadblocks or kind of issues that will have to be sorted out. But as early as next week, we anticipate Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, the Senate Committee of Jurisdiction on Surface Transportation, to take up their bill. We haven't seen the text yet, but we'll make sure you see the text when we see the text. And that will be including corridors. It'll have a climate title as before. I think, we anticipate that to be moving forward through somewhat bipartisan effort there. And then the House side, they had a markup schedule of a bill. It was delayed to get more member feedback. That is going to be hopefully rescheduled soon, but maybe a bigger, more aspirational bill there, maybe more partisan as well. So that will have to be worked out. And then, the other pieces outside of surface transportation, I'll use that rebate as an example. Again, that is not necessarily in the jurisdiction of the committees we're talking about here. So that could be, dealt with through budget reconciliation as the popular tool, which will be outside of these surface transportation committees lanes. So a lot going on. It depends on which policy we're talking about as to which vehicle.
Yeah, but it sounds like a real good outlook. Kyle, we're going to have to move on to our industry speakers, but I do want to get a sense from you. What can industry and stakeholders best do right now to support keeping these investments in place? Seems like it's kind of a critical time.
Yeah, great point. And I think that joining us with the Clean and Fuels Infrastructure PAG Policy Action Group that we have used as kind of the focal point for our advocacy efforts, targeting medium heavy duty vehicle pieces in that corridor grant, specifically joining that, reaching out to me for more information on how to join if you're not already plugged in. We could really use all of our collective efforts there in advancing the policy, because it's really critical to weigh in right now.
Great. Well, I know Kyle Casey's going to put your contact information in chat so that folks can reach out to you, but thanks for all the great work that you're doing. And right now we're going to go ahead and bring in one of our Policy Action Group members, and we're so pleased to have her with the San Diego Gas and Electric, our Customer Engagement Program Manager, Natasha Contreras. Natasha, it's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And as a member of our Policy Action Group, tell us a little bit what interest SDG&E to be a part of this partnership. What's really important to you?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. SDG&E is committed to its sustainability goals, which includes clean transportation. Our goals through collaboration on this initiative is to be a good partner and understand the impacts to our region. Knowing that San Diego is a destination city, we want to make sure it's easy to drive electric. SDG&E can supplement the existing plans through lessons learned and best practices from installing more than 3,000 light-duty chargers in our territory. And we're also excited to learn from others through this partnership.
Hey, Natasha, one of the things that's so interesting now is that, we're seeing regions start to build out, like what you're doing in the San Diego region is really powerful. How important is it to you, and why do you think it's so important to get these corridors connecting regions right now? How do we make that interlink happen, and how critical is it?
That's a great question. Transportation is the #1 source of GHG emissions in California. And when we think of the most significant transportation emitters, heavy-duty trucks are top of mind. These are the trucks that are going across the service territories, delivering food and goods from Long Beach to San Diego. And so it's critical to bring business to communities along with us. Availability of charging infrastructure is essential for building out a zero-emission truck market and requires collaboration with other regional stakeholders to understand the common routes and ensure that there is an equitable disbursement of chargers to support the operations. Our Power Your Drive for Fleets program is a 5-year program aimed at electrifying at least 3,000 vehicles, Class 2 to Class 8, and it's a natural fit to link our efforts together.
That's great, Natasha. Thank you so much. I just want to get your input on what are the biggest barriers for deploying charging infrastructure along corridors?
Yeah, that's a great question. While our program is still fairly new, only having launched last September, we are having engaged with hundreds of customers already. And I would say that cost and forward thinking are probably the biggest barriers. It takes time to do the math to see how much you will save with an electric vehicle. So many fleet owners aren't really considering it as an option just yet. We have to be mindful of the timing of when these stations may be used and the duration that the trucks will require to during each charging session, because we don't want to create excess traffic. Also, in the corridors, more collaboration is required since it's serving one customer, but not one customer, but many. So we have to consider how billing, rates, and payment will work.
Great. Well, I think getting these connections right is so important. So I think it's super that you've been such a big player in this. And I think, Alicia, what we want to do is bring in our next guest to talk from an industry standpoint. Where do they need these stations to be along these corridors, and how soon do we need them connecting to like the regional hubs that SDG&E is building out?
That's right. Well, I'm really excited to bring on our next two guests, Bill. We have Philippe Garriston, who's a Senior Manager for Energy Project Development at Nikola Corporation, as well as John Thomas, who's a Senior Vice President of Sustainability and Alternative Energy at Travel Centers of America.
Thank you both for joining us as we look for clean fuel corridors and zero emission infrastructure. We know we need to include both fuels, both electric charging and hydrogen refueling. Nikola is also a part of CalStart's policy action group to advance alternative fuel corridors. Maybe starting off with you, Philippe, tell us, why is this policy action group important to Nikola?
Well, thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here to talk about this collaboration and the opportunity with CalStart. At Nikola, we're a manufacturer of both battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. And we recognize that each of these vehicles has a special place to play in the use cases that our customers are going to be looking for those trucks to operate on. So from our standpoint, we see that the battery electric vehicle customers are largely looking for fueling opportunities that are closer to home base. They operate and fuel out at their depots and their warehouses. But at the same time, our hydrogen fuel cell vehicles customers are looking for a lot more operational flexibility. So we're really working here in conjunction with CalStart, with TA, and with other partners to look at how we can expand those hydrogen fueling stations across the corridors on which these customers are already operating. We've already worked closely with the Arizona Department of Transportation and Valley Sun Clean Cities Coalition to get in place heavy-duty hydrogen alternative fuel corridors throughout the interstates in Arizona. And we see that precedent that we've set, where you have longer ranges than permitted for passenger vehicles, is something that we want to replicate working with CalStart across the rest of the nation. That will really give customers the certainty that they can operate their trucks along the routes that they currently use and have the flexibility to go nationwide with those vehicles.
Great, Philippe. And let's bring John Thomas in on this. So you've recently formed this great collaboration with Travel Centers of America, TA, to put in some of the first hydrogen fueling stations that would be on these really big truck stop locations. John, can you talk to us about why this collaboration is important, and also kind of your vision of how does this enable a network of clean fuel refueling stations, hydrogen, electricity, and others?
Thank you very much for having me, Bill. Yes, we're very excited at TA, as again, we recently formed a whole new business unit called ETA, dedicated to participating in and leading the transition to alternative energy. And absolutely, electrification and hydrogen are two of the leading solutions that many firms are dedicating their resources to. And we've been chomping at the bit, looking for the right partners to collaborate with and have some technology, we're calling it best in breed, that we can deploy at initial beta sites, as well as ultimately all 270 of our sites nationwide. So we are surveying our customers and several OEMs, and we're gathering all that feedback so that we can understand what are their pain points, what are their use cases, and what has inhibited them from purchasing all these electric and hydrogen trucks thus far. And clearly, this kind of collaboration is one of those tools that can break the chicken or egg conundrum on range anxiety as it applies to EVs and hydrogen.
Great. Well, thank you so much, John. And I know the partnership is looking at deploying 2 stations in California, one around the greater Los Angeles area, as well as in the kind of north of California in the Central Valley. Why were these 2 locations targeted as the first deployments? And maybe, Philippe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we see that these 2 locations are going to be critical to enabling operations throughout Southern California and into the Central Valley. With the planned release of our Tre fuel cell trucks in second half of 2023, we need to have the fueling infrastructure available for those customers to utilize that 500-mile range that those trucks are going to have. But with that range, we feel that these first 2 stations will enable operations to occur throughout Southern California and up to the Bay Area with out and back routes, really allowing a lot of flexibility for our customers. And this is going to be the basis for us to then build out a regional network that will have a lot more flexibility and operational flexibility for our customers, so that we can then connect it to the Bay Area and Arizona and beyond, and really look at developing a national infrastructure that meets the customer needs so that they can have a seamless transition from their diesel fuel trucks over to hydrogen fuel trucks, with the goal of having the same total cost of ownership for them.
Hey, let me just ask a question, and we're almost out of time today in our segment, but for both of you, can I just get a real quick response? So a lot of people are not even realizing that we can do long haul trucks and that this capability is coming online. How critical is it to both of your operations that we invest in this now to get that infrastructure out, as the trucks will be coming in the next 2 years?
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. When you look at the time frame to deploy infrastructure, you're looking 18 to 24 months in most cases. So we need to start working now on identifying where are the customers most interested to adopt hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, so that we can go and deploy that infrastructure proactively and have it available by the time that they take delivery of the vehicles. So the investments and incentives that are available from the government and other agencies are going to be tremendously important to enabling that deployment of infrastructure so that everybody can use the zero emission vehicles.
Great. John, I'll give you the last word, but you've got about 15 seconds. I mean, from your perspective, you're ready to go.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we agree completely with all statements Philippe just made, and we've been reading all the DOE hydrogen reports as they apply to medium and heavy duty truck. And clearly the time is now to begin the deployment in collaboration with our local utilities and other stakeholders to do that construction work and infrastructure readiness. And Philippe and his company are stimulating demand in the marketplace. So it's a win-win for everybody included.
Great. Well, John Thomas and Philippe Gerritsen, thank you so much for being with us. That's the end of our time for this segment, but thank you so much. Alicia, I think let's jump into what events are coming up.
That's right. And yes, thank you so much, John and Philippe. And I know Casey put some good links in there and possibly good contact information to reach out. All right, so events that we have coming up. So May 31st to June 4th, CalStart Speaks. Our Clean Energy Ministerial 12th annual meeting. Please make sure you check it out. I know Casey's going to put that link in chat as well. And on June 2nd, we're going to have an infrastructure forum that's going to be hosted by the California Air Resources Board. I'm fortunate to be moderating one of those topics, so please make sure you join for that as well. And then lastly, June 9th, CalStart Spring Leadership Circle. It's focused on investment, the new clean transportation disruptor. You're definitely going to want to check that out, so make sure to join us. Bill, that's it.
Great. And those are really exciting opportunities. And we're going to have some great announcements on that global commercial vehicle drive to zero program, with some major nations stepping up to the plate on commitments. But once again, that is it for CCTU this broadcast. It has really been so great being back together with you all. We'll be taking the Memorial Day holiday off next Friday, but look for our CCTU Take 5 broadcasts in the coming few weeks. And then our full CCTU next comes to you on June 18th. And we'll give you a deeper look when we come back at how IKEA is hitting their goals of 100% zero emission delivery vehicles. Until then, though, thanks for making Friday your CCTU day. We love joining you and talking about the progress in this industry. On behalf of Alicia Gildy and our full and great team, stay safe, and we will CCTU again very soon.